Welcome to the show. It is Thursday. We are one step closer to a weekend, and we are officially a week away. As I look at my watch to make sure what the date is, we are 1 week away from Christmas. It is bearing down on us right now. So glad to have you with us on today's show. We got a lot of Notre Dame football that we're going to talk, as always, for a second day in a row. I begin the show on my own. Jesse Stiers will be along in a little bit, but I'll start flying solo today, just like I did yesterday when Trevor slid in just a little bit behind the start of the show. You know, no shade at either one of those guys, but we've got a lot of listener submitted topics that we're going to get to today. It is we in, we out day, and we haven't done a we in or we out since before the season actually started. It was probably back sometime in August that I think that we last did a we in or we out show. And what these are is you submit a question, and as many listeners already have, in we in or we out fashion. It's not quite like Jeopardy, but you know, you submit it, and I'll give you an example here. Here's a question from our old friend Salty Virginia Peanuts. He submitted yesterday for the mailbag show a question that we didn't get to, but so I reworked it. We in or we out? In politics, follow the money. In sports, follow the girlfriend. Are we in or we out on that? I would say, I'll ask Jesse when he gets here, but I would say probably mostly in, but I would also say in sports, follow the money as well, you know. So, but I think the girlfriends probably do play a big part in that. Hello, John, as he chimes in the chat as well, and hello to everybody else filing in the YouTube chat right now. And don't forget, you can watch this show on either the Irish Breakdown YouTube channel or the Sports Radio WSBT YouTube channel. And while you're there at Sports Radio WSBT on the YouTube side, you can go to YouTube, youtube.com, and then just search Sports Radio WSBT, find the channel, and then hit subscribe. As we've stalled in our subscriptions to the channel. We're trying to get to the 500 mark, and that's where we're trying to get. So hit that subscribe button. A little news before we get into some of these we in or we out questions. A little Notre Dame related news to get to today. Not a name that I think is like widely known among Notre Dame fans. Like if you are diehard, you are in this every day, you probably know this name. But I wouldn't say that Javon Codlin is a well-known again, like name in terms of guys who were on Marcus Freeman's staff, but he has been a fairly significant member of his staff, more, from behind the curtain, I think, especially in the recruiting circles. But Javon Codlin is reportedly going to become an assistant coach for Neil Brown, the former West Virginia head coach. He is now the head coach at North Texas. Javon Codlin is going to leave Notre Dame to join Neil Brown's staff there. And I believe John Bryce at Football Scoop was the first to have this earlier today. That was the first report that I have seen of it. And down around the North Texas area, in that Denton area, they are reporting that, even though they are not giving John Bryce and Football Scoop the actual credit for the report. But Codlin has been an assistant defensive line coach for Marcus Freeman here at Notre Dame, but he has also been a guy who's been involved in recruiting. Most recently played a significant role in recruiting guys like Aiden Pouncey, Nick Reddish, Kari Adams, those kind of guys. And he is going to go to West Virginia or not West Virginia, North Texas. Again, I had the Neil Brown and the West Virginia on the mind because Javon Codlin was actually part of Neil Brown's staff at West Virginia. So Codlin is going to go and coach the safeties at North Texas. So that is what he is going to do. So again, a member of Marcus Freeman's staff has taken off, and he'll get a promotion out of this basically by becoming a full-time, full titled on-field assistant coach at North Texas at the University of North Texas. How are you today, Jesse Stiers?
Just running behind. I feels like I'm just
It happens.
solid.
Swimming uphill.
Yeah. Solid 30 minutes behind. Feels like I'm the only one working leading up to Christmas. Everyone else is just
here we go. Here we
chilling.
go. Pat himself on the back now. Are you still feeling the wrath of your post-wedding return to work? Is that still a thing as you catch up and catch a lot of the backlash for things that happened or didn't happen while you were gone on your wedding and honeymoon?
Yeah, still feeling some of those. And I know this is a term kind of, I feel like, thrown around loosely by my generation, but really feeling like I'm being gaslit for stuff that's not my fault.
Oh boy.
Yeah. A lot of fun.
Tuco with a little cocktail reference here. Codlin's Law. Anything else is always something better. You probably have never seen the movie Cocktail, have you?
No.
1980s, Tom Cruise. I recommend it. I don't know what you were doing for all those years, those 18 years you were growing up in my house, and you didn't, get to see anything other than Braveheart, Saving Private Ryan, and Lost. But I guess we watched The Office as well. But you need to go back and find you some 80s classics. Risky Business. Have you ever seen Risky Business? Another Tom Cruise classic.
Maybe. Yeah, the thing is I don't have a recall quite like some of these other people.
Total Recall. You saying me?
Yeah.
Maybe we need to find Cocktail while you're home for Christmas next week. I think that's better than most Christmas movies that you could find, to be quite honest.
I mean, outside of Christmas Vacation, the rest I could do without.
Yeah, I know. You're not a big Elf fan. You're not a big you hate Christmas
Elf.
Story.
Christmas Story.
Yeah, you hate Christmas Story. Too old, I guess.
It's just a sad movie, in my opinion.
Christmas Story is a sad movie?
Yeah. Nothing goes right in that movie.
Yeah, Ralphie does have some issues in that movie. That's for sure. All right. Well, like I said, we can just skip the Christmas movies and watch some classics like Cocktail and Risky Business if we can find them. So I'd even watch A Few Good Men or When Harry Met Sally. There's a lot of, we could do some Rob Reiner, Princess Bride. I don't know. Let's get to some we in, we out questions. We've got a handful of Mike Mickens questions in the we in, we out pool. And if you're kind of in the chat, in the live YouTube chat, you can always throw up some more we in, we out, and we'll see that if we can grab hold of some of those as well. Okay, so Salty says, Mike Mickens has produced the greatest 3 consecutive class group of top 2 cornerbacks in Notre Dame history. Mark Zachary and the Golden One, Dallas Golden, of course, Aiden Pouncey and Kari Adams in 26, and Xavier Hassan and Ace Alston in 27. So I guess, are we doing this separately, or is that a preamble to this next part? Are we looking, Salty, for a we in, we out on the greatest 3 consecutive class? Because that we don't, follow recruiting that closely. But I know based on these 3 classes right here and the talent of those guys, I would just have to go in. I think that at least in the last 3 decades, I think the answer to most everything is best since Lou Holtz, late 80s, early 90s, basically. I would at least be in on that, if that's the question. You as well, Jesse?
Yeah, I would be in on that. I don't know. I can't recall every cornerback class over the last 25 years, but what Mickens has done in terms of this doesn't even factor in Benjamin Morrison or Leonard Moore. And then you add, basically these Mark Zachary, the Golden One, Aiden Pouncey, Kari Adams, Xavier Hassan, and Ace Olston. I don't know how you could say that Mike Mickens hasn't put together probably the best DB room in my lifetime.
Definitely the best DB room in your lifetime, and you're not quite 30 years old yet. So, again, like 3 decades. Yes. So, so Salty says, Mr. Mickens must be given pass coordinator responsibilities at the co-defensive coordinator level and must be paid hard. He says, analyst Javon Codlin must be shown love as well. Well, he is already gone. So, but Salty was ahead of the curve, I guess, when it comes to that. And then he did note in his edit, people are telling me Mr. Codlin has already been claimed by another. So, in or out, that Mike Mickens must be given pass defense coordinator responsibilities at the co-defensive coordinator level. In or out on that, Jesse?
So I guess maybe I need to be, brought up on some stuff, but
okay.
Did something happen today with Mike Mickens, or was it just kind of these other people that you've already spoken?
No, nothing has happened with Mike Mickens. This is like people. I think people concerned that something could happen with Mike Mickens, and he needs to be given more title and another raise to keep him around. And it feels like with all, like the last couple of years with what Mike Mickens has received, it feels like, the next step in terms of will Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman be able to keep him here is like the only thing left basically is either full-blown defensive coordinator or co-defensive coordinator along with Chris Ash. And so I am in on this, because of what I just said, because it feels like where else is there to go if Mike Mickens, has the aspirations to head out and become a defensive coordinator now. It feels like the best probable compromise, or, if that's what you want to call it, is give him co-defensive coordinator responsibilities, pass defense coordinator responsibilities. And I think this came up in the mailbag yesterday, and this was my response. If Joe Rudolph can be given the responsibilities of being the essentially like designing Notre Dame's offensive run game on that side of the ball, then I don't see why Mike Mickens, as important as he has been to Notre Dame's defense, both from a recruiting, development, on-field standpoint, why he shouldn't be and couldn't be given pass game coordinator responsibilities on the defensive side and co-defensive coordinator responsibilities. So I am totally in on this is my response to that.
Yeah, I'm in on this as well. I don't know if it should be, co-defensive coordinator or pass game coordinator or pass defense coordinator. What I will say is I want to trust the process of the conversations that Marcus Freeman has had with Mickens, in kind of a closed door setting. And I want to believe that they have talked about career progression, what the next steps look like, what next responsibilities look like, because I'm sure that Mickens has voiced, wanting to probably, want more responsibility or else he's going to move on. And so I trust that him and Marcus Freeman have had those conversations and that Marcus Freeman has put together a game plan of what he can do to enhance Mickens on the defensive side of the ball. So I don't know if that definitely means co-defensive coordinator, if that means pass defense coordinator. I just think he needs more responsibility in order to be retained. And I'm sure that him and Marcus Freeman have had those conversations.
Right. Because, like when you look at last year as an example, there were some people coming after Mike Mickens, but it was like essentially the Texas secondary coach. I can't remember, it definitely was not defensive coordinator at the University of Texas. It was still a relatively lateral move with maybe a little bit better pay attached to it. And then he ended up, getting a raise here as a result and those kind of things. So, again, it feels like for the importance that Mickens has had, and as long as he has been here at this point, like if that's what it takes, then I think that that's what you've got to do. Because I think that a big part of the improvement in the secondary, especially as the season went on, like once things finally calmed down, Mike Mickens' fingerprints were on that. It wasn't just Chris Ash, the defensive coordinator, doing that on his own. Mike Mickens had his fingerprints on that, and so again, I think that I think it is much deserving for him. Irish Gordian Knott says, this may explain a lot about me, but I used to go to sleep watching A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth, Gordian Knott. That's the problem. It is. That movie is a little bit long, especially when it's on TV and you've got all the commercial breaks in. I think by the time, if it's on commercial cable TV, it probably, pans out to like 3 hours long or something like that. It could have been pared down a little bit, but very classic, very good movie, I have to say. All right, let's go and scroll back because we've got, you know what? I'll just go ahead and do this one right here first. Airball VW, in or out, Vince D'Addario is back before December 29th. I don't know if you knew this. Maybe you weren't watching yesterday, Airball VW, or Jesse for that matter, but Vince actually popped in at the start of the show yesterday. So technically, he has already returned before December 29th.
Yeah, I think December 29th is his actual first game back, and that's first game, first show back. I was just looking at that email you sent out over the next 3 weeks because there's a lot going on, and Vince was supposed to do the 29th and the 30th. Surprise, says he can't do the 30th.
He's not even back, and he's calling off days.
Yeah. Yeah, he said he's got wrestling duties that night. Okay. Likely. But no, I just think that's funny because literally his first full show back will be that 29th, Monday the 29th.
And his birthday. So.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know if you knew that. As Irish Chi-Town was here yesterday and he was paying attention, it sounds like I told him that, the December 23rd is Festivus and Vince loves him some Festivus show. So I think that he may partake in the Festivus show next Tuesday.
Okay.
We mentioned that on air before he jumped out. So, yeah. Mike Keith says, did I hear correctly that Texas fired their defensive coordinator today? I have not heard that. Have you heard that?
No, but I also haven't been on my phone all day.
Let me see. Texas fires defensive coordinator Pete Kwiatkowski. So, yes, that has happened. So,
why did he get fired when it felt like their struggles were on offense this year?
Yeah, I know. It's felt like it was more about what was going on with the Manning legacy more than anything, didn't it?
Yeah, and Will Muschamp is his replacement.
Interesting.
They've already announced it.
All right. So there you go. So that's already been filled, so we don't have to worry about that. All right.
That is so bizarre. I just can't believe he's being fired. I thought Texas's defense was pretty solid this season.
I thought so too. Maybe they just didn't maybe they didn't agree philosophically. Who knows? Yep. 13 reasons why. We in or we out. If Charles Jagasaw is not able to get healthy, he will join the what if category.
Oh yeah. This is a big we in for me. I think he definitely joins that kind of list of guys who you would say, man, what if he didn't, sustain all the injuries, and someone who I believe if he can get it together and put a solid 2 seasons on the field, like he could very easily be an NFL guy, and not only be an NFL guy, he could be, kind of the next plug and play, Notre Dame offensive line factory in the NFL. I think he's got the size, the athleticism, the body for it. He just has to stay on the field. Can't be doing stupid stuff in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, each of the last 2 years, he was supposed to be the starter, and the guy has the talent that if he had been the starter, he might be a 2-time All-American by now and heading off to the NFL.
Yeah,
in the 2026 draft. But as it is, unfortunately, it's already, a what if. And so this is like the obvious slam dunk in. If Jagasaw can't stay healthy, can't get healthy and play a full season. The guy has not played a regular season game yet. Everything that he has played, well, he has. He's taken snaps in a regular season game, but minimal. He hasn't started a regular season game, I guess I should say. Let's put it that way. But he will be the ultimate what if he's not able to stay healthy, get healthy, stay healthy, and play next year. Because just for the third consecutive year, we expect that if Charles Jagasaw is healthy, he'll be a starter and a dominant starter on Notre Dame's offensive line. All right, with Jesse Stiers, Sean Stiers, it is we in or we out day. We've got a lot of Notre Dame football questions we are answering in we in, we out fashion. We'll take a timeout, and then when we return, we will do more Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com continues. Sean Stiers, Vince D'Addario, Jesse Stiers is here. He's got his screen blacked out, so I can't even see him right now. He's back there crying about Christmas.
Here I am.
Crying Christmas story tears, I guess. Price in the YouTube chat says a bit behind, but if Christmas Story is a sad movie, nothing goes right in The Hangover either. Does that make the Hangover movies sad movies? I mean, something goes right at the end of the first one anyway. You know, like they get it all.
The Hangover is also very funny.
You don't think Christmas Story is funny at all? Is that what
No, and it does not put me in the Christmas spirit.
Man. I don't know. Like what? How did who killed your dog on this one? I don't like. Is it because of the overkill with Christmas Story? Is it just overexposure? Is that it?
No, I don't think it's the overexposure. It's just, again, like I don't feel the Christmas spirit, and I feel like the entire time the movie is just sad. Like he's just the whole plot of it. Like I don't feel like he actually, gets what he wants at the end of the day. And maybe that's the whole point, but like to me, a kid on Christmas gets what they want. They have fun with their toy, and the whole time he's being told, you're going to shoot your eye out and da-da-da-da. And then he hurts himself doing it. And then Santa kicks him down the Christmas slide. And, it's just like, I don't know. I don't feel happy and in the Christmas spirit when I watch that.
Okay. All right. Joe says, talk about a Festivus topic. I think you're right on that, Joe. We may have discovered a Festivus topic for next week. And Brian's Balloons LLC, Jesse, is the Grinch confirmed? And maybe this is just it, as Tommy says. Maybe Jesse just hates Christmas.
I don't hate Christmas.
I don't know. Felt like Santa was always good to you. Man, you're just a technical walking issue tonight.
There's just much better Christmas movies.
All right. Let's get into some we in, we out. How about some Notre Dame football? Sing Kevin. Is that sing or sling? Sing Kevin. On the whole, the wide receiver and defensive tackle transfers we get this year will be better than the ones we got last year.
I don't know. That's a tough question. Malachi Fields was a really strong addition in the wide receiver room. The transfer from Louisville and USC were also
Elijah Hughes and Jared Dawson. I thought they were both good. Will Pauling was good.
Yeah, I thought both of those. Yeah, Will Pauling. That's a great addition as well. A guy who ended up being a captain. So I'm actually going to go out on this. I think it's going to be hard to exceed what they did at these positions this year, unless they just get some absolute stud, because a stud can outweigh, anything.
Yeah, I mean, like Hughes and Dawson weren't Cross and Mills, but that's a pretty tall order to
provide a lot of depth.
Yeah, that's right. Like a lot of depth. And I felt like there were times, like especially with Hughes, because like coming into the season, I don't think we really knew what we were going to get. It's like, man, that guy's playing pretty well. I felt like they both played pretty well this year. And, Fields ended up being the second leading wide receiver behind Jordan Faison, and Will Pauling was pretty productive as well. So I've got to be out just because, like, I think that they, like, as a group, those four guys specifically, they were all pretty good this year. So I think that it would be, I think they set a fairly high bar to live up to. Now, like, especially, like on the defensive side, is there another level still? Yeah, but I think that I think all things considered, that group did pretty well. From Joe, Notre Dame will go to the portal yet again for a kicker. Are we in or are we out?
I have to be in on this. I believe the guy that they have right now is a true freshman, and the other guy was a graduate transfer already. So I mean, the last 2 years, I wouldn't say it's been a complete disaster, but it's been not good. And I think you have to do something to at least give yourself some reassurance that if all else goes wrong, you have a veteran from the transfer portal.
Yeah, because Schmidt is on scholarship, and you've got a long time between right now and next year. But I think that they will, like, at the very least, I think you could see them go after maybe like an Ivy League guy or just a group of 5 type guy to come in, with some consistency, just like an insurance policy. I think you need some competition in that room, as big a leg as Schmidt does have. I think you need another guy in there so that it's like you can't end up in the kind of situation that you were in this year where it was an adventure every time, and you're holding your breath every time you're trying to kick an extra point. So I think they need to go out at the very least and bring in a guy for some depth who can compete with Schmidt for the job in the spring and in the summer. Joe also says special teams coach Marty Biaggi is really good at creating trick plays, but his downfall is developing kickers. We in and we out. Joe is upset about kickers today.
I'd be in on this, and I think I would add kind of a slight modification. Also, this was posted at 6:25 a.m. this morning. That's craziness. I would say that he is exceptional about creating, fake punts, misdirection, that sort of stuff. I think he lacks the basics sometimes. And I think that just like developing kickers.
Just like the little things that can be taken for granted, basically.
Yeah, like I think he's good at the extracurriculars, but I think sometimes the fundamentals maybe they take for granted sometimes. I don't know. But I would like to see kind of like the smaller stuff cleaned up. And I would kind of like the quarterback situation. Like it wouldn't be a bad thing to have a career kicker that you develop over 4 or 5 years.
No, not at all. And they potentially got that with a guy like Schmidt. But again, I feel like they do need to go out and bring somebody else in, for insurance. I mean, like you cannot, like the first part of this statement is absolutely right. Creating trick plays, and you can throw the blocks in there as well, even though we didn't see as many blocks this year, but it's all about the look that you get and the, like where you think you can take advantage and capitalize, whether it's a block scheme that you're setting up or, the fakes that you're setting up and those kind of things. He is elite at that kind of stuff. I don't know if developing kickers is his downfall. Maybe it is just because they've gone to the portal every year that he has been here so far. And I think it's just a very specific issue they have had with these leg injuries these guys have. And Noah Burnett specifically, like there was something going on with him when he was still at North Carolina that he wasn't completely upfront about before he got here. So I don't think you can put that on Biaggi. Like they do need to do more diligence, I think, assuming they do go to the portal again, when they bring guys in, to make sure that they're 100% and they're not dealing with some of this kind of stuff.
Are you telling me that the kicker should have to do like a little tryout,
maybe so. Got to do something.
It's like that guy that just tried to come out of retirement for the Lions and they put him through the physical exam. They're like, right. You have a torn hamstring.
Exactly. Like you got to be able to stand up, dude. Yeah.
I don't understand how he didn't realize his hamstring was basically gone.
I know. That's amazing. All right, Double R 2.0. In or out on Jadarian Price being drafted in the second round?
I'm in on this. I think he's second round or higher.
I don't think he's going to go higher. I'll go in on the second round, though. If everything holds right now, Jeremiah Love is RB1 and Jadarian Price is RB2 in terms of the NFL draft. And like when you throw in what Jadarian Price can give you as a kickoff returner right away as well, that's big. Like when you're talking about moving up and going to the next level, the ability to be an impact guy from a return standpoint. So I'm in on him. Like it's still tough because you just never know how NFL teams are going to value running backs, but it just feels like Jadarian Price would be a steal in the second round. So even if it's a late round type thing, I'm in on him going in the second round. Double R 2.0 also asks, in or out on the Bears making the playoffs?
It's so funny. I don't know if Bailey asked you this, but she texted me yesterday and we were talking about, I told her I didn't tell her, but I was like, this is going to be hard to explain over text, the Bears playoff scenario, because
Right.
if they win against the Packers, they're almost like the number 1 seed in the entire NFC. But then if they lose, they're on the verge.
Is right now. Yeah.
Yeah, they're on the verge of potentially missing the playoffs or being that number 7 seed. I think the Bears are going to make it. I don't know what seed they're going to get. I think they're going to beat the Packers this weekend too. So you know what? Screw it. I'll say I'm in on the Bears, and I think they're going to be the top seed in the NFC.
I think the Rams are going to be the top seed in the NFC, but I am in on the Bears getting in, and that's because I think a few weeks ago, maybe it was even a month or so, maybe I can't remember. It all blurs together like the time at this point, but they were the number 1 team in the NFC for at least a week, and then they lost, and they fell like all the way down to like 6th or 7th with that one loss, like you're talking about, and that's kind of the same situation right now with 3 games to go. But I do think they're getting in. This is a huge game Saturday night for them, obviously, against the Packers. Double R also asked, Cowboys finishing with a better record than the NFC South winner. I am out on that because the 2 teams atop the NFC South right now, Tampa Bay and Carolina, are both 7-7. The Cowboys are, what are they, 6-7-1? Yeah, they're 6-7-1. So they would need to win all 3 games to get to 9. And obviously, all one of those 2 teams needs to do is win 2 games to get to 9. And they're playing each other 2 of the last 3 weekends, Carolina and Tampa Bay. And one of them, can't remember which one, has the Dolphins in the middle as well. So
yeah, but I think one of those 9-8 is not as good as 9-7-1. Remember that.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So technically, is 9-8 a better record? I guess it's not, is it? Because you didn't lose. Ooh. But are the Cowboys going to win out?
They've got the Chargers, the Giants, and the Commanders. They're going to somehow win against the Chargers and then probably lose one of those Commanders and Giants games.
Yeah, they're going to lose to the Giants most likely. Like I see that.
I do too. I feel like they've been flirting with it for the Giants the last 3 matchups, and it's like I just feel like the Giants are due one. Jackson Dart against this Cowboys defense.
That's how I'm feeling right now. Yep. All right, Bootstrap Bill. 2 new starters on the offensive line when Notre Dame kicks off against Wisconsin. In or out?
Do we get to count Jagasol as a new starter?
Yeah.
I'll be. And Emil Wagner's leaving, so yeah, I'm in on this.
I mean, most likely you're going to have Jagasaw and then Gerby Lambert or Will Black next year. So I would say, yeah. Now, obviously, again, that's assuming Jagasaw is healthy next year. That's a big assumption, I guess, at this point. But I'll be in on that. From Chris, Aeneas Williams sets the new single-season rushing touchdown record for Notre Dame next year.
So I'll answer this question, and I also want to go down a little side tangent because of this question. I'm going to say I'm out on this. I think your first full season as a starter, I don't think you're going to break the record that Jeremiah Love just set. So
I don't either.
I'll be out on that.
I'm out. I still think he'll have a healthy year, like maybe
12. He'll have a solid year.
Yeah, 12, 13, something like that. Really good first year, but I don't think he's going to do it in his first year as the starter. Tuco asking, is Emil Wagner 100% gone? No, we don't know for sure that that's going to happen. Pete Bavacqua obviously alluded to it, and it's sounds like there's a very good chance. Look at what's happened the last 3 days now. 2 days ago, we had Jeremiah Love make his announcement. Yesterday, we had Jadarian Price make his announcement. Today, we had Eli Raridan make his announcement. This is not by mistake. This is all they set all these things up in terms of
they don't want all the pain in one day.
Right. So I would expect, no, I'm not saying who it's going to be or what, because obviously Raridan was out of eligibility anyway. And, but he made his goodbye, but I would expect to see, something else pop up tomorrow. We'll continue to get this slow trickle over the next several days. Stymie says tomorrow is Chris Ash. Funny you should say that, Stymie, because there are Chris Ash questions in the We In, We Out stash. We're going to take a short break and then back with more Notre Dame football. We in or we out on Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. We continue Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. A few minutes left here in the first hour of the show. We got a lot coming up in rapid fire in hour number 2 tonight. I see Scooby is making his Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat debut. I guess technically you've probably heard him on the show before, but
he jumped up here during the break and won't let me put him down. So I don't know what he's hoping to accomplish up here.
Have you bought him an evil mask to try to scare his friend Henry in the house?
No, but I showed that video to Naomi and she thought it was pretty hilarious. Oh, I think he's finally leaving. Here we go. All right, there he goes.
All right. It's We In or We Out day on the show. Irish I-Town says the voice and the professor. The ACC, are we in or are we out?
I think right now you have to be in, but long-term you have to be out. You know, like I think that, yes, the ACC has done damage, but unless you've got something else lined up to what the ACC is already providing you, you kind of have to stick it out, but you have to find ways to kind of give a list of demands to the ACC to fix the relationship, or you're going to have some sort of repercussions yourself. And I don't know what Notre Dame can hold over the ACC. That's the issue. And you know what I mean? And so, like, we've talked about scheduling wise, how, Notre Dame needs to get more of those premier matchups and not just get the bottom half of the ACC. And so that would be, on my list of demands, amongst other things. But I think for the short term, you have to be in and you have to leverage them. Right. And then in the meantime, you're kind of scheming, talking to other, suitors and kind of coming up with an escape route for 6, 7, 5, 4 years down the road, however long it might be. But again, right now you have to be in, because if you're out, what would your schedule look like?
That's exactly it. But you do have to be rhyming and scheming, as you said. But yeah, I mean, like we talked about that last week, about the fact that you've got a block, obviously, of at least 5. Like the average is 5. Some years it's 4, some years it's 6, just depending on where it turns out. But they're giving you a big block of games. And it is like, in today's world, as we talked about when we that full show that we did, what was that, last Friday, I guess, like it's getting tougher because of the fact that you've got these other schools playing 9-game conference schedules, and the fact that Notre Dame is not in a conference, so they don't have to think about things like conference games. But like, look at USC as an example. USC, where do they want to move the Notre Dame USC game? They want to move it up to September, if not even August, just depending on what the calendar looks like. And like, they want to play it at the front of the schedule, though. And I think that more and more other teams are going to want to do the same. It is hard to get these teams to step out of conference play in October and November and get them to schedule games against Notre Dame, because like, look at the month of November traditionally. Like, if you go back and look who Notre Dame is playing in the month of November, like, you see Navy games in there, and you predominantly see ACC games, and obviously every other year it's been USC and Stanford. But as we know, that's going away now, so it's tough. And it's not just USC, even though it's a big sticking point for USC, but I think you're going to have the same issues with other teams around the country as well, in different conferences, getting them to schedule games, non-conference games, against Notre Dame in the month of November. It's not going to be easy. So yeah, like, that's a roundabout way of answering this question regarding to Notre Dame and the ACC. I agree with what Jesse said. You have to be in for now, but you also have to be keeping your options open to get out if and when it ultimately makes sense. Gomer Grizz, in or out? While lacking a superstar like Manti Te'o or Jalen Smith, this linebacker room overall is the best one from the last 25 years.
Yeah, I think this is a big in for me. I don't know if Drake Bowen is maybe at that Manti or Jalen Sneed superstar level, but he's still a stud and he's still a really good player and he leads the room. I just think depth-wise, we've not seen this much talent. And I also want to say, just like the overall versatility and athleticism, guys who can cover basically sideline to sideline at any of the linebacker positions. And so I think having, 4 or 5 really good guys outweighs having a stud and a handful of others.
I was going through my head, like thinking about, like a lot of the different linebacker rooms over the years. And I think that you have to go back to the 2017 room where you had Tavon Coney, Niles Morgan, Drew Tranquil. That is probably the next best. That's been 8 years ago. Probably the next best after where they are right now, because like, even when Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was around, Jalen Smith were around, they were basically like, it was them at the top, and probably Manti as well. It was like those guys at the top, and then there was a pretty good drop to the next guy. So yeah, in terms of everything that they can do, the talent level, and sideline to sideline, like Jesse was talking about, this over the last 25 years, this is it. Because from 2017, you probably have to go all the way back to like Goolsby and Hoyt playing together, and that's been 20 plus years at this point. You're pushing 25 to get to that. So, yeah. All right. Looks like we're probably going to end up going into overtime on We In, We Out today, by the way, because there's a lot of questions that we haven't even got to yet. Salty says Notre Dame is facing a quarterback continuity cliff in 2027 with the anticipated departure of C.J. Carr for the NFL after the 26th season. They'll be left with redshirt freshman Noah Grubbs, redshirt sophomore Blake Hebert. It is necessary for current rising junior Teddy Gerard from Georgia to reclassify to the 26th class and arrive in South Bend that summer, which has been talked about. He says this will give Notre Dame the opportunity to evaluate the capabilities and progression of all three quarterbacks for a year ahead of the quarterback competition, easing the pressure to go for an experienced transfer quarterback to fill a one-year gap. Mr. Gerard has learned at a geometric rate in his 2 varsity seasons at North Cobb Christian. So are you in or out on the necessity of Gerard reclassifying and basically coming in next summer, a year ahead of time?
I think it helps considering the 2 transfer portals that we've seen this week between, Kenny Menchie and Rezac. I think it's very obvious the writing on the walls. It's a CJ Carr's position until he leaves. And so if you can get a guy to reclassify, get in a year early, and again, a guy who's probably not expected to start if he's missing out his senior year of high school, that's a good year to potentially learn under Carr, develop under Gaduli. So yeah, I do think this is a not a necessity, but I think it's definitely a win.
I think it is, necessity, no, but a big advantage for Notre Dame for him to reclassify and come in the summer, absolutely, because of all the reasons that Salty outlined there, the evaluation, the development, the whole thing, to get into college and go through that whole thing. Slide Wilson. Mike Mickens will be promoted to defensive coordinator after the upcoming season due to Ash no longer being with Notre Dame for whatever reason. So I just saw the after the upcoming season. So that means after 2026. In or out on that?
So I guess I'm still confused. Like, what the hate on Chris Ash is? The guy cleaned it up after the Purdue game, and that's all we asked for. I thought the defense was largely cleaned up. If you look at where Notre Dame finished, and a lot of stats for overall defensive stats, they're like top 25, top 20, top 15. I know their rush defense might have even gotten the top 10. Like, they created the most turnovers in the country. Their pressure rate was one of the best.
Underrated rush defense, by the way. Very
right.
Underrated rush defense. Nobody talks about that because of the issues that they had with, in this pass defense early on.
Yeah, so I guess I'm just so kind of frustrated and over this Chris Ash hate. Like, he was bad to start the season. He knows that. Everyone knows it, but he fixed it. He cleaned it up, and the Notre Dame defense wasn't a liability down the stretch. And so, yeah, you could say, okay, well, who are they really tested by after the Miami and Texas A&M game? I thought the defense made big plays against USC when it mattered most. I thought against Pitt, Navy, and I know those aren't, top tier teams, but they definitely didn't, they made both those offenses look really bad. So I'm just over it. I'm over all the Ash slander. I think that, I think the game plan the entire time was Mike Mickens was going to learn how to be a defensive corner while Chris Ash is here. And so what that timeline looks like when maybe Mickens becomes full-time defensive coordinator and Ash, takes a different opportunity elsewhere, I don't know. So I guess what I'm trying to get at, as long as Mike Mickens is happy, I'm happy. I think Chris Ash can do a good job until it's Mike Mickens' turn.
I agree with all of that. I do think that, like I'm putting up the comment from Tommy here. He says, Jesse, did you not watch the second half of Stanford? Okay, so they gave up some yards and a few points while the reserves were on the field. That didn't keep them out.
The game was 35-3.
Right. Like, I
realized
realized
it mattered most.
Right. They still won 49-20 in that game. Like they were up 42-3. And the other thing is, I think people, once Notre Dame was left out of the playoff, there was definitely a lot of blame that reverted back to Chris Ash, because no matter how good the team was and the defense was by the end of the season, it is still losing both of those first 2 games where the defense was the major issue. that ultimately kept them out of the playoffs. So I think that there's, like people have reverted to some Chris Ash anger. But like in fairness, go back to Al Golden's first season. And, like there were some ups and downs in Al Golden's first season. Chris is saying style points count. The committee did not leave Notre Dame out because they gave up 20 points to Stanford. I'm sorry. Like that's
when
not
they moved Alabama in front of Notre Dame the week before. That's
right.
When you should have known it was over.
Right. We've gone through the whole thing. Like there was obviously a concerted effort to make sure that Alabama was going to stay in, and then they finally put Notre Dame and Miami side by side, and Notre Dame ended up getting squeezed. So Chris says, "Are we sure? Do we know for sure? Do we know with 100% certainty? No." But again, they didn't leave Notre Dame out because they gave up 20 points to Stanford, 17 points in the second half. I'm sorry. That's not why they got left out.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people
as much as as many bad things as we can say about the committee, that's not why they got left out. At the end of the day, they got left out. Notre Dame got left out because the committee wanted to make sure Alabama was going to get in. I think we're all pretty confident in that, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, basically what it came down to is Alabama had to be in, and then that put Notre Dame and Miami next to each other, and then all of a sudden the head-to-head all came into play, even though that Notre Dame has been in the same grouping with Miami the entire season. And the last thing I'll say about Golden is I know he struggled against Miami and Texas A&M, but those are the first 2 games of the season. He's a brand new defensive coordinator. There was a good amount of turnover on the Notre Dame defensive roster. There was a couple injuries they were dealing with in the secondary of those games. Like, I'm not up here making excuses. I'm going to give Chris Ash grace. And the way he responded after those games is I thought the defense was magnificent the rest of the year. And so why don't we go into next season when we go against high-end opponents and then really start to judge Chris Ash on a full body of work? I like you said, Marcus Freeman, Al Golden, they struggle. I would say that those guys struggled more in their first year than Chris Ash struggled in their first year. But because they lost those 2 games at the beginning of the season, those are being held over his head because they didn't miss the playoff.
Right. I mean, like you can go back and you can look at the way the schedule was set up and the fact that they played 2 top 10 teams to open up the season, the fact that their 2 toughest teams were at the front. We don't need to get caught up in that because there are more we in or we out questions that we do want to get to, and we actually have some other rapid fire stuff that we want to get to at some point in the show as well, but we're already into the 6 o'clock hour. So we'll take a break. When we come back, we've got more we in or we out. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. It's the second hour of the show, along with Jesse Stiers. I'm Sean Stiers. We're going to continue with some we in and we out, and everybody just got fired up talking about defense to close the first hour. Man, and Chris saying, I don't like the way we finish games defensively. I do think there are a couple things to that. One, the fact that in those blowout games, the second team is out there as much as they are. That obviously plays into it. And the fact that some of these other teams haven't necessarily taken their starters off the field at the same time. Those all play into it. And two, like the one thing that I will say, because there are a couple different things. We're going to have to, again, move past this today because there are a lot of other questions that I still want to get to, and we in or we out before we get into rapid fire as well. I think we can all agree that the defense moved back toward elite status after the first 2.5 games of the season. They lost those first 2 games of the season, and most of that was on the defense, because if you had even an average defense those first 2 games, you're going to win those first 2 games. We can all agree on that. But we should also be able to agree that the defense got better as the season went on. But at the same time, to Chris's point about finishing games, what Chris Ash does is what I think drives so many fans, media members, everybody else. Like, why do you feel the need, just because you've got a lead now, to start playing, this soft zone prevent defense? Just play the defense that got you to that point. Keep playing it. Like guys like him are so afraid, we're playing man to man, and all of a sudden we're going to have a busted coverage, and that's going to turn into points. Well, all you're doing is just let them, allowing the defense to, like the opposing team's offense to get small chunks and continue to move the ball downfield, like bend but don't break type stuff. And I get it, it eats up clock and all that kind of stuff, but it does nothing to make fans, I guess, feel better about the defense when you see that late in games.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we were so accustomed to, when in Al Golden's last year, so last season, they were really good about if you were going to score on the Notre Dame defense, it was going to be on the first drive or maybe within the first quarter, and then Notre Dame would self-correct, and teams really wouldn't score much the rest of the game. It feels more or less kind of the opposite now. It feels like Notre Dame starts strong, gets into a groove, and then, like you said, they had leads, and so their whole thought process was, well, let's not get burned on a man-to-man coverage and allow a 70-yard touchdown. If you're going to go, we want you to go, 5-7 yards at a time, which I get. But at the same time, you're just kind of conceding that, okay, we don't care if you score points. Like we would rather you eat up the clock.
Right. Exactly. And, so again, like from a statistical standpoint, you're going to give up a little bit, again, like going back to Chris, he says Coach Free wants to get the younger players on. And I get that, but I believe that hurt us. I don't think so. When you get in those blowout situations where you're up by like 4+ touchdowns in the fourth quarter, you've got to get the young guys on the field to develop them, to get them their time to evaluate them, to see what they can do. And, he's obviously got his philosophy, especially when it comes to offense. They're still, even though the number 2s are on the field, they're still going to continue to run the offense. Kenny Minchie, and Steve Angeli before him, they were still going to throw the ball. You've got to develop those guys. Like look at Pat Narduzzi, who wanted to keep, and even Mario Cristobal. It worked out for Cristobal this year because he was able to keep the starters on the field and score some cheap points at the end of the season. But if you look at Miami, you look at Pittsburgh, the fact that he kept starters on, was scoring points late. Between Notre Dame, Miami, and Pittsburgh, who do you think is going to have the more sustainable program 3 years from now? Who do you think is going to be the more consistent winning program and competing for national championships between those 3? It's Notre Dame. They just got caught, in a bad situation this year because they lost a couple games at the beginning of the season. And that's still what it comes down to. You lost 2 games at the beginning of the season to the two best teams on your schedule. That's what kept you out of the playoff. If you split those 2 games, you're in the playoffs, and none of this is even a conversation. Everything else is what it was, and you're going to be competing for a championship. In college football, as long as there's a 12-team format, if you lose 2 games, you're going to be on the bubble. That's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, Notre Dame knew that. And if you asked all the Notre Dame fans at the beginning of the season, we knew that. We said that 0-2 wasn't acceptable. And worst case scenario, you had to find a way to split. And they went 0-2. So,
right. All right, let's go back to some we in or we out questions from Son of Donald. Let's try to get through these relatively quickly if we can. We in or we out? Knapp will have as good a junior season as Zach Martin, but will never reach the same level of accolades because he'll go pro. Little known fact, I don't know if people realize this, Zach Martin was never an All-American at Notre Dame. His best accolades came once he got to the NFL with the Cowboys, when he became an All-Pro perennially. So I will be out on that. And it's not because, it's just because Zach Martin never got accolades really himself when he was at Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think this is a really good question because I do think Knapp will be a guard in the NFL. I think he's, kind of playing tackle right now out of necessity,
right.
comfortability, and just kind of, how he pieces together with the rest of the offensive line room. I think he's going to have a really good junior season, but I don't think he's going to be quite to the level of Zach Martin. So I'll be out.
Right. I would agree with that. More from Son of Donald.
Whoa.
We in, we out. Notre Dame's new linebacker coach will not be someone well-known, but will thrive, a gem of Freeman's finding. I'll be in on this. And I mean, look at Max Bulla. He thrived, and, look where he came from. It's not like he was a big, well-known name in coaching circles before he got here.
Yeah, I think Marcus Freeman and Chris Ash will do a good job of finding a solid replacement.
I'm in on that. Son of Donald also says, in or out from left to right, the offensive line, Knapp, Jagasaw, Heron, Lambert, Black is our line and is markedly more consistent due to health, Knapp's progression, and overall talent. I'm out because I think it will be Knapp at left tackle still, Schrouth at left guard, Craig back at center, Jagasaw at right guard, and Lambert at right tackle. That's what I think it will be.
Yeah, I was getting ready to ask what the status, why this didn't include Billy Schrouth. I think he's got to be mixed in there. And Ashton Craig, both guys who got hurt this season. Unless Schrouth goes on to the NFL, I think those are two guys that will be back. And I like that group of five that you had. I don't know if that's the exact alignment, but I think those are the five best guys that you kind of have to figure out where they can best, gel on the offensive line.
Son of Donald kind of amended his Zach Martin Knapp question with that last one. So Ballpeen Shalali, we in or we out? Kedron Young will have a similar career to Jadarian Price, where he comes back from injury slowly, but becomes a top-tier elite back for Notre Dame.
I'll be out. And I'm not out that I think he'll be, good and become maybe a top tier. I just don't think he's going to be as good as what Price was. And you have to factor in Price was a really effective guy in kick return as well. So it's more than just contribution at the running back position. So I'm just going to be out. I think it'd be hard to live up or exceed kind of what Jadarian Price did.
Yeah, I am out on for that reason as well. I think that Young will be a role guy next year, and with these young guys coming in, Walton and Osborne that they have coming in, I think it's going to be hard for Young to I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see, but I see Aeneas Williams being the guy at least heading into the season, and I see some of these young guys with the talent that they've got, are going to be in that mix, and Nolan James is going to be in the mix as well. It's a crowded room, and look at how they use the room this year. It was predominantly Jeremiah Love and then, sprinklings of Jadarian Price. So I think it's going to be hard for Kedron Young to carve a really big role unless, he comes on and surprises us in the spring. So I've got to be out for that reason. In or out, the combination of CJ Carr's offseason growth and improving wide receiver development will result in a top 3 passing attack next season. Pass yards, points, efficiency, etc. Big in on this. I think we're looking at big levels of passing game next year, like levels that we maybe haven't ever seen at Notre Dame. So it's a big in for me.
Yeah, I'll be in on the wide receiver development in the passing game. Top 3, I don't know. That's a big ask, but one of the things I wanted to get into tangent wise when we were talking about Aeneas Williams was I'm curious to see the impacts that Love and Price have on CJ Carr's game, because I think it was definitely easier for him to play quarterback when you have, teams really dedicating to the box or not to the box because of Notre Dame's potent running attack. And so I want to see how CJ Carr stacks up, knowing that he doesn't have two NFL running backs in the backfield. I think it's going to put more pressure on him. I think it's obviously going to put more pressure on Aeneas Williams to step up. But I think the passing game is going to have to outshine the rushing attack next year. And I'm curious what that means schematically for defenses going against Notre Dame.
Yeah. Wayne says out, still think Notre Dame is a run first team until I see it. They are a run first team.
Yeah, Marcus Freeman is always going to be a run first team.
They'll continue to be a run first team, but CJ Carr threw for 2,700 yards this year, and that was in his first year as a starting quarterback. So like, just because you're a run first team doesn't mean all you're going to do is ground and pound and you're not going to be throwing the football. We've got plenty of offseason to talk about how many 300-yard passing games Carr is going to have. I think there's going to be a lot of them next year. So I think that they're going to be a very balanced offensive team, and that means heavy doses of running and heavy doses of pass game, like with big explosive type pass plays. Ballpeen also says, in or out, within 20 years, the college football conference structure will be completely unrecognizable.
Yeah, I'll be in on that. I think that at some point it's just going to be it's just going to be one big group of teams, and you're either going to be eligible for the college football playoff or you're not. And I do think that there's going to be some sort of like regulation style where you can get into that pool just because you're not in
it. Relegation, little soccer is what
I think that there's going to be like JMUs could eventually find their way into that pool. Tulane's could find that way into their pool. And I think some of the bottom tier teams that are consistently bad can be kicked out or should be kicked out.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I don't know about the relegation thing, but I do think that the conference structure is definitely going to look different. And you even got some props there from Salty Virginia Peanuts and Chi-Town as well. So well done. You nailed that, Professor. Chris says, don't sleep on Aeneas. If he stays, he's going to run mad. I completely agree with that. Again, I'm not saying that like they're just going to throw the ball. They're just going to run the ball. They're going to do both. And I don't know if the run game, it's not going to look exactly like it looked this season because there's only one Jeremiah Love and there's only one Jadarian Price, but they're still going to have a really good run game and a really good passing game. Like I said, I think that they're going to have great balance, some of the best balance they've had from both in a long time next year. ND Forever 72. We in or we out. The 2026 running back grouping gives Notre Dame the same output Love and Price did this year.
I'm out on this. I know Aeneas Williams is.
We're talking about these guys as literally maybe the best duo Notre Dame has ever had, if at least not in the last 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a guy who's probably going to be a top 15 first running back off the board, and another guy who's probably going to go round 2, if not round 3. Like, when has Notre Dame ever had that in the same year? So, I've seen the Aeneas Williams tape. I've seen the comparisons. His size still worries me a little bit as a true runner. I know he's got the abilities. I think what makes him really special is we've seen him catch the ball in the backfield, so he's a true dual threat running back. I need to see Aeneas Williams in a full workload before I can commit to, anything along the lines of being potentially better than, Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. So I think it's going to take a lot. And I don't know if we're ever going to see a running back room better than what we had this season.
Well, didn't you say, though, that you still think they're going to run for 200 yards a game next year? So, like, if that's the mark, like that accomplishes, I guess, right? Like,
I don't remember saying that, but I hope that they run for 200 yards.
Maybe that was Trevor. I don't know. Like, there's been maybe I don't know. I agree with what Outbound is saying. Why do people keep thinking Williams is going to leave? He's now RB1. That's exactly right. Like, the reason for Aeneas Williams to leave, like, he stayed this year knowing that Love and Price were both going to be ahead of him. He probably thought he was going to have somewhat of a bigger role, but now Love and Price is gone and he is at the top of the depth chart now. So there's no reason for Aeneas Williams to leave. He has every opportunity now to be the guy. So, like, Again, there's a transfer portal and there's money and all that different kind of stuff. So who knows? But it feels like if, like scale of 1 to 10, it feels like it's like a 1.5 at best that he would leave at this point because of who's already gone.
So there was some clarification. Basically, the question was saying, do we think that the running back room next year can amass 2,000 yards, like production wise? Can the room itself live up to the production that we saw this season? I'm still going to be out on that. I think you're going to see a decrease in rushing production and a slight uptick in passing production. I just think the passing is gonna go up a little bit and the rushing is going to go down a little bit as a consequence.
Yeah, I mean they ran for, what was it, 2,680 yards this season. They averaged 203 a game. They had 5.7 per carry. So I would agree. I think that the yard totals will be a little bit less, and I think that the passing numbers will go up. They threw for 255 yards a game. I think that that'll be closer to like 280-ish per game next year, and maybe the rushing numbers come down a little bit. But again, like, they're still going to be a really good team. They're going to, look at the schedule that they're going to play next year.
That also factors in.
Yes, exactly. All right, let's take a break, and then we'll start some rapid fire. Coming up next, Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.
Hello. Go.
All right, Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. We are sitting here right around 6:30. We are a little bit late getting rapid fire started, but we had a lot of really good we in or we out questions. And of course, we got hung up on that whole Chris Ash topic. And yes, ND Forever 72. There was another question that he had about Chris Ash, but I felt like we had pretty much adequately answered that by the time it came around. So, college football playoffs this weekend, Jesse, and NFL this weekend as well. Which are you more likely to watch more of this weekend, NFL or the playoffs?
Yeah, this isn't even a question. I might tune into the Miami Texas A&M game, and I might tune into Tulane and Ole Miss just because I want to see how Ole Miss looks. Like if they look, like can you tell a Lane Kiffin left type situation?
Sure.
But other than that, I don't care. I'll watch the Saturday game. I'm gonna
No
watch
Oklahoma, Alabama tomorrow night.
No, I don't care about that game. That's gonna be that's gonna be whoever scores 20 points is probably gonna win that game. I might even take that down to 14, 17, to be honest with you.
Am I hearing you're not going to watch, but you might have some money on that? Is that what you're?
No. I haven't bet in a few weeks, actually. Just Christmas time, a lot of bills, all kinds of stuff.
This might be the first time that we've got a majority of responses saying NFL. That very rarely happens on the show. So I think we're all in the same boat. I was just kind of curious what the temperature was going to be. I'm the same. It's like that Miami A&M game is at noon Saturday. So it's like, yeah, what else am I going to do at noon on Saturday? When like at least half a, free weekend. I've got a Notre Dame women's basketball game Sunday night. That doesn't even start till 7:00. So that means I'll actually get to watch Cowboys Chargers. I've got to find out who's calling that game. I don't know who exactly is calling that game. I've got my fingers crossed that it's on CBS and it's Kevin Harlan, but I'll have to find out. Because I was just thinking, like, being a Cowboys fan, we never get any Kevin Harlan doing the games, but maybe there's a chance since it's the Chargers and, like where they are in the standings. Probably a greater chance it'd be Ian Eagle and J.J. Watt if it's on CBS, though, probably. But in any case, yeah, it's more NFL for me, for sure, as well. And for a majority of people who are responding. So here's what I'd like you to do. Rank the 12 college football playoff teams in the order of confidence that you think Notre Dame would beat them.
Okay. Let me start with the top. I would start number 1 with James Madison.
Right there with you.
And then next year I would move on to Tulane.
Correct.
After that, I would probably go Ole Miss.
Okay.
After Ole Miss, I would go surprisingly, I think I would go Texas A&M after that. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take that back. I'd go Ole Miss, and then I would go Alabama. Then I would go Oklahoma. Then I would go Texas A&M. Then I would go Miami. Then I would go – this is where it's going to get tough. After that, I would go Oregon, then Texas Tech, IU, Georgia, and then Ohio State.
Oh, so you'd have Ohio State at the top. So interesting. Like that's it's fairly similar to mine, but I've got it juggled around a little bit. James Madison and Tulane, the no-brainers at the top of the list. I put Indiana third, like right ahead of James Madison and Tulane. I've got them far because I just don't I think that they've got a good defense. I don't think that they have the playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. I think that would that be a tough physical game? Yeah, but I actually think that athletically and physically, Notre Dame is a better team than Indiana. Now, that's not to say that I don't think Indiana has a chance, to do well in these playoffs, but I feel very good about Notre Dame in that matchup. So I go James Madison, Tulane, Indiana, Oklahoma is next, and then Alabama, the two teams with virtually no offense, it feels like. Then I've got Ole Miss, and I've only got them like you said, with the Lane Kiffin thing, what exactly are they going to be? I feel good about Notre Dame in a rematch with Miami. So I've got them next. And then I've got Texas Tech because, again, like good defensive team. I don't think that there's really a whole lot there offensively with that little dink and dunk offense that they've got. I don't think, I think that that's a really good matchup for Notre Dame. I've got Texas A&M next. Then I've got Oregon, Ohio State, and I put Georgia at the top of the list.
Pretty similar. I think really the only teams I would be like worried about at the end of the day, I'm going to be quite honest with you. I think it would just be Ohio State. I think Georgia and Texas have really good. I mean, I think Georgia, Texas Tech, and Oklahoma have really good defenses, but their offenses don't strike any fear in me. And then, like you said, I think IU, they have a solid team, but I don't think they have the athletes to keep up with everyone. They've had a reasonable schedule this season. Yeah. The only thing that they really had to do was beat Oregon at Oregon and win the Big Ten championship against Ohio State, which was impressive. Don't get me wrong, but Ohio State's not the same as they were last season. So yeah, I just this question just infuriates me more, honestly, because it's like
thinking about the field and like
Notre Dame could win this whole thing. And could is coulda, woulda, shoulda, whatever. But sure. I have no doubt. I mean, there's a reason why Notre Dame, before the final rankings were announced, were like the odds-on favorite, like third or fourth favorite to win the whole thing, and then magically they're left out of the playoffs. So Oregon doesn't really scare me. I don't think their offense is as potent as they think. And everyone always talks about Dan Lanning's defense, but until it feels like every time they play in a big game, that defense just crumbles.
I agree. Yeah. So, and that's why I've kind of got them a little bit in the middle of the pack. It's like, how challenged has Oregon really been this year? I don't think that they have been very challenged. Okay. So now we're going to do a playoff snake draft. We're going to draft from the 12 teams, the teams that we think will win the championship. So you're going to go first. So the first team you take is the team that you think has the best chance to win the championship. We're both going to have 6 teams here when it's all said and done. So we'll see which of us ends up drafting the team that wins the national championship. So who are you going to go with first?
Georgia.
All right. Jesse's going with Georgia, and I will just take Ohio State as my team. Bernie says Ohio State's a lot to win it all. I don't know about all that,
but give me Oregon.
Jesse is going with Oregon after you just talked about how you didn't think that they were that great. Very interesting. I will go with, I guess I'm going to have to go with Indiana. Right now I've got 2 of the Big Ten teams. So I've got Ohio State and Indiana. You've got UGA and Oregon.
Texas Tech.
All right. And then I will go. Let me make sure who we've got left here. You've got Tech. I'll go with Miami. I think that, like that Miami A&M matchup, I'm leaning towards Miami the way Marcel Reed and A&M kind of played down the stretch.
I'll take Texas A&M.
Okay. So Jesse's got a couple of Texas teams. I've got Miami. That leaves me with either Alabama or Oklahoma as my next logical, or either that or Ole Miss. And I guess I'll go with Ole Miss. I'll take Ole Miss over one of those 2 teams.
I guess I'm going to go Oklahoma next.
Okay. So that leaves me with Alabama. So are you taking James Madison or Tulane? Jesse's got Tulane, and I've got JMU. So our snake draft, Jesse, these are the teams that, in the order that we thought would win the national championship, confidence they would win the championship. Jesse's got Georgia, Oregon, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Tulane. I have Ohio State, Indiana, Miami, Ole Miss, Alabama, and James Madison. And I honestly have to tell you that of the 6 teams that I have, Hope none of them win the national championship. Ole Miss might be the only one. So
crazy how that happens.
I know, right? Okay, now a little bit different. We're going to rank the playoff teams by the likability of their head coach. Have you put your list together? You probably haven't. Based on the way you've responded to these questions so far, I don't think you looked at any of the questions that I sent over for you today. So I'm going to start this off. I put these into tiers of 3. And so we're going by likability of the head coach. I really don't know a lot about Pete Golding, Bob Chesney, or John Sumrall. So I put them in a tier of 3 at the top: Ole Miss, James Madison, Tulane, because I just don't know enough about those guys. Any disagreement there?
No disagreement there. I really like Sumrall. So he would be up in that top tier for me.
Okay. All right. My next tier of 3: Texas A&M with Mike Elko, Alabama, Kalen DeBoer, Oregon with Dan Lanning.
I like that grouping.
Shaking his head. He likes that. So that's tier 2. Tier 3, it's going to get a little bit tougher. Brent Venables, Oklahoma, Mario Cristobal, Miami, Kirby Smart, Georgia. That is my next tier. Again, this is likability. This has nothing to do with their coaching ability or, whether or not we think they're going to win. This is all purely likability. So I got Venables, Cristobal, Smart in tier 3. Are you putting yours together right now as I go through mine?
Yeah, what's the Texas Tech guy's name?
Joey McGuire.
Okay.
And so then my 4th tier on the likability chart: Joey McGuire, Texas Tech; Ohio State, Ryan Day; Curt Cignetti, Indiana. Like the 3, easiest guys to dislike, I think, in this college football playoff field. Texas Tech's Joey McGuire, Ohio State's Ryan Day, Indiana's Curt Cignetti. Any disagreement with that?
So I'm curious, what has McGuire at the bottom?
Well, because he was unprovoked, he was shooting his mouth off about Notre Dame and independence a couple of weeks ago. So that's what moved him well up the list. Like you play in the Big 12, and his whole thing was, Notre Dame needs to join a conference. Come play in the Big 12. Look at all these great road environments that we play in. Oh yeah, like really tough to go to Cincinnati. I'm sorry. Really tough to go to Arizona, Kansas, and Kansas State. Really tough road environments that you're playing in there. So, yeah.
Okay, I have my list.
Okay, go ahead.
I think the guys, I'm going to group them together. I'm going to do tiers like you did. I'm going to start at the bottom. Guys I just can't stand at the end of the day. And I think that if I really had to pick, I put Cignetti and Day at the very, very bottom. And then next would be McGuire and Cristobal.
Okay.
I just didn't like Cristobal. Everything I've seen, it's like, oh yeah, we knew we were in. We knew it was never a question. We knew. And it's like, oh, so you knew the ACC was going to back you the whole time when there was collusion.
I mean, at the end of the day, he was on the field in 1988, Notre Dame, Miami. He is a hurricane through and through. So, that should tell you all you need to know, I think, right there. Like if you're looking at it from a Notre Dame perspective.
My next grouping is just going to be kind of the meh, like I'm just kind of indifferent about you, or I don't really know enough about you. That group is going to be the JMU coach, Golding at Ole Miss, and Venables at Oklahoma. And then I'll also put Dan Lanning in that grouping as well.
Okay.
So then my top tier would actually be Kirby Smart, Mike Elko, and DeBoer.
Okay.
As my most likable coaches.
Most likable.
Yes.
So Say that again. You've got Elko, DeBoer, and who was the third one?
Kirby Smart.
Kirby Smart. Oh, you like Kirby Smart.
I like Kirby Smart.
Interesting.
I don't think Kirby Smart has like Kirby Smart just plays football to me most of the time. Like he's not up there, blah 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 blahing or saying unnecessary things,
That's
taking
true.
shots at people.
Not a lot of you never heard him joining the fray with a lot of this stuff this year.
I just feel like Kirby
Maybe
Smart
because he's got guys to try to keep off the streets down there in Athens. I don't know.
He's got a lot of other things to worry about. I think the thing with Kirby Smart is I think he's the type of coach who just says, let's lace him up and see who's better. Like
Sure.
that's the overall vibe I get from him. So and he put like Georgia plays good football. The only thing that they do bad is the off the field stuff, but
right.
He can't control 110 guys. So
exactly.
You can't tell them all to drive the speed limit. But yeah, I think what this really comes down to is who's at your top, who's at your bottom, and then the middle is just kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Defining the bottom once again is definitely Signetti, Day, Cristobal, McGuire, and the top is definitely Elko, DeBoer, and Kirby. And it just sucks that DeBoer has to coach at Alabama, and Alabama got this preferential treatment because I think he's a good guy and a good coach.
Right. Right. Irish Chi-Town says most likable coach in college football, not at Notre Dame. What did I miss there?
I think the question is who would you pick as the most likable coach but you have to say not Marcus Freeman can't be included.
Who is the most likable coach not at Notre Dame?
Dabo Sweeney, right? Am I right?
I don't know. I feel like he gets on his soapbox a little bit.
No, that was a joke. That was pure sarcasm.
Okay. I was going to say.
I mean, I have an answer, but
Narduzzi, yeah.
I got an answer, but I think people are going to call me crazy.
All right, save it, and then we'll do it after this, our final break of this show. We will do that when we return, and then we will wrap up Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat and Rapid Fire. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com, winding down, rapid fire, closing out the show. Little programming note, this will be the last show of the week. We won't have one tomorrow because with Vince out, we've got some scheduling things going on, who's available, who's not, and all that kind of stuff. And then next week, we'll have shows Monday and Tuesday. You won't want to miss you never want to miss a show, but the Tuesday show is our annual Festivus show. We are going to air grievances. I've got to see if I can find my aluminum pole and have it in the background so that we have our pole ready. We asked before we took the last break, who is the most likable, Irish Shytown in the chat asked this, who is the most likable college football coach not named Marcus Freeman? Some interesting responses that we got in the YouTube chat during the break. Outbound says, call me crazy. I like Cignetti. He does, for the most part, back up his trash talk. Yeah, except for when he got his clock cleaned by Notre Dame in the playoff last year after talking about all these great ranked teams that he had beaten, all these group of 5 ranked teams.
He's a great coach, but that doesn't make him likable.
Right. Like, I do not doubt his coaching ability, and what he has done in these 2 years at Indiana is nothing short of remarkable, but that does not make him a likable coach. I don't care about his, like what he has done on the field. I'm talking about his likability as a human being, and he seems very devoid of anything that ranks anywhere on the likability scale. But that's just me. Jeff Munkin is what Irish Shytown says. That's not a bad one. And Kenny Dillingham, Tommy Guns. I like that one as well. Jesse, you teased us. I think I know where you're probably going to go with this.
You do.
Okay. Go ahead.
Do you want to say it or do you want me to say it?
Go ahead. I'm not going to steal your thunder.
I mean, and this is me. This is if there were. I wrote down 5 names,
okay,
excluding Marcus Freeman, of 5 guys that I would go play for.
That's more than I can think of
right now today. Lane Kiffin is at the top of my list.
Of course he is. See, I would have included him because I thought Lane Kiffin had turned a corner in his life, but all this, like, you're leaving a playoff team to go to another school in the middle of the playoffs. It just doesn't sit well with me. It just comes back to Lane Kiffin is still.
Yeah, but it's like being awarded a promotion, but also being held accountable for a project that you're in right now. But because you're in the project, you got to finish it, but you're also being teased with a promotion at the same time. Like, I get it. It's a tough spot to be in.
It's a team sport, and you're coaching and leading guys. It's like, I don't know.
I wrote down 4 other names. The next name was Brent Key at Georgia Tech. I think he's a solid dude. I like Kenny Dillingham out of Arizona State. I like Mike Elko a lot. I have a lot of respect for him, and I like Clark Lee as well. So yeah. I know a lot of those names have already been popped up, but I think the one that I would really add is Brent Key. I would emphasize Kenny Dillingham. And I'm just a Lane Kiffin guy. You know that. So I'll die on that hill.
I do. I know. You love you some Lane Kiffin. You always have. And again, like I had finally, I had come around after some doubt there for a while, but it just doesn't sit well with me leaving a team. Like, your goal is to win a national championship, and to pack up and leave a team that's trying to win a championship. I don't like it. Clark Lee would be at the top of my list. Like, we obviously, got to interact with him personally when he was here, and like everything, like, again, like, if not for Curt Cignetti, the greatest turnaround in college football over the last 2 years would be what Clark Lee has done at Vanderbilt. But Cignetti has taken it to another level, taken the all-time losingest program and into the playoffs 2 years in a row, and number 1 in the nation this year. But Clark Lee would be there, and Mike Elko would probably be next after that as well. Those would be the guys up on my list. Have you I'm trying to let me just go with this. This will be kind of an abrupt change of subject, but I wanted to get your take on this since you are definitely like of the co-hosts that I have, you are the basketball guy, I guess you would say. The New York Knicks won the in-season NBA Cup this week. Do you buy or sell the idea of college basketball doing something similar to try to generate, more early season November, December interest in college basketball?
Yeah, I'm actually in on this. Before we go too deep into this, did you see the Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson celebration after they won the
I
cup?
didn't see that.
I'll send you the clip.
Okay.
It's pretty funny. I will say I'm in on this, but my biggest thing is like, the NCAA tournament is like 64 teams. I think you could cut it in half and do like an in-season 32 team type format. I don't know how you decide which 32 teams get invited and which don't. I think that would be the hardest part. And I think the second hardest part is, where do you place it? Do you place it right before conference starts? Do you place it midway through conference? To me, I think you do your typical, season opening tournaments, get some guys some playing time. And I think right now, honestly, would be the best time to do it, maybe right after Christmas break or right before Christmas break. And then, you get some time off and then you go into your conference schedule. So I would do it kind of right now, actually get people, obviously
the month of December. Yeah. Because like you can play them during the week. Well, obviously you've got, college football playoff games and NFL games on the weekend. You can play a lot of games during the week, I think.
Yeah, and I think you can get really people, hyped up about college basketball, knowing that football is kind of tailing off. You know what I mean? So, I'm in on this. I just think, again, the hardest part would be who are you inviting and who are you not inviting?
Because, like a lot of the big time programs like Michigan State, Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, they are always willing to play the other big teams early on. And so it feels like you can start with that pool and then get some other teams maybe that are coming into the season ranked and, like from a lot of different conferences involved. It just feels like there's a lot you could do, because like the NBA Cup is obviously part of the NBA's regular season. So I think it would make things a lot more interesting at this time of year. All right, that's going to do it. Jesse, thanks as always. Great stuff from the chat and the input with the questions as well. We'll talk to you next week. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.